So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get started, and I'll just repeat what I just said one more time. So at least people who are looking and listening and who find their way in here. Number one, I apologize. This is my first opportunity. I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna delete a couple of mics here because I'm getting some feedback. But this is my first opportunity to use this StreamYard software, not only live but also in their new webinar format. I am kind of dragging my feet here a little bit because apparently some people the link took them to the wrong place or something, and I had about 6 places set up. So I got 2 Facebook accounts, 2 LinkedIn, 2 YouTube. Well, hopefully this will work its way through to everybody. But what I'm trying to do here is create snippet webinars that people can use that aren't just a huge 2 hour bunch of information that people get to, but then they never use it because it's almost like going to a class. You take this big long class, it doesn't really resonate. What I'm trying to do is to put together in this first webinar the basic strategic practices that an owner, a manager, a director, or even someone in charge of a sales team would use to manage and maintain a successful sales strategy. And what is a successful sales strategy? It's one in which you know what you're selling, you know where it's coming from, and then you know what you want to try to accomplish to improve that or to grow that, to set goals. So I'm going to walk through some of this, and here's what I really want to discuss. So we want to establish some basic monthly goals. These would be for you. So again, if you have anything you can write down, or if you don't want to worry about it, I'll send this to you later along with a worksheet that we can use to go to the next step. But we also want to really understand, or I certainly want you to understand, what is the buyer's journey? What does that really mean? And I'll show you in a couple of minutes. And then take a quick look at what are the 10 different types of buying customers that are out there, because we tend to try to treat all of them the same, and they're all not the same. They're all very different. And as you become more and more aware of this, your ability to talk to people and tailor the conversations or phone calls or even email messages you're having with people down to who they are will help you greatly. I want to talk a little bit about the pest control sales pyramid. Again, this is just trying to get in your brain from a sales standpoint where things are categorized and what is it we're going to try to do in 2024 so we can see substantial growth, measurable growth that we can count in terms of dollars and revenue, not just sort of hyperbole. Then we'll get into what the pest control organized sales plan looks like. This is the essence of what you need to learn over time. You won't be able to learn it all right now here today. It's too much. If you can walk away, and what we'll do is focus on the first 2 components. If you can walk away with an understanding of what those really are and how you can integrate that into your day-to-day activities, talking with people, communicating with people, even working with your own team, we'll be well on our way to 2024 success for increased sales performance. And then we'll talk a little bit about, you see there on the right on that picture, a sales pest control funnel. And all really that means, and so many people get all caught up in all these buzzwords with marketing and advertising. But a funnel is nothing more than taking the buyer's journey, if you will, that's on a horizontal plane, turning it up on its side, and being able to move people with some sort of sense of awareness as to what you're doing to move people from point A to point B. In this case, it's really awareness, consideration, and decision. But the goals that you have, so let's talk really first and foremost about you and your sales goals. And this is really something that surprises me when I'm working with um, pest control owners across the board, big, small, medium, large, one man shops, the whole bit. But how difficult it is to really sit down and just go through these basic four things. How many leads do we have? So, consistently, month in and month out, week in and week out, how many leads do we get? How many of those leads do we convert into sales? And by virtue of those two factors, about what is our sales acquisition cost. So the money we spend to get those leads, the number of those leads we actually convert into a new customer, how much did that new customer cost? Generally speaking, in sales for pest control, we're going to try to keep that under $150, depending on where you are, depending on where you are geographically, as well as where you are in terms of your own understanding of how to do your inside marketing for your online as well as your paid as well as your outside. You need to come to a point to where you have a pretty good measurable understanding of how much money you're spending each time you get a new customer. And that is the way that ultimately you will be able to determine what your ROI is and whether or not all of your efforts and all of your time and energy are paying off. And what's really critical here is that you are able to figure out with your sales acquisition cost, where is the best place for me to be able to improve that? So is it just strictly reducing my costs? Or more importantly, what we'll talk about today, is it my ability to get my sales conversions up to and around 50% of the time? So, in other words, every other person I talk to that's an opportunity to sell some pest control service, I do that. That's 50%, sort of every other one. This is just a made up document, and it's something I will challenge you to take a look at and to understand where we're going. So if you take a look at, I've just put down at the very top, this is just guessing and pretending. Yours would be more realistic to you, and there could be more more rows there than just general pest control recurring and general pest control commercial. But what I'm trying to get at here is what I'm trying to figure out is if today, and let's just pretend this is an annual number, and the number again doesn't matter, it's just for easy math, that I get 100 leads per year from general pest control for recurring type customers. And for commercial, I get about 50. And over on the right, what I'm trying to show is here, let's say in those recurring that I convert 30% of those into a new customer. That'd be 30. And in general pest control, it would be, excuse me, in commercial, it'd be 15. So, what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to show you here is what we're looking at is how many pest control customers we would sell if we're converting 30%, and how many commercial we would sell with the same number. And that revenue we're going to use, as I just kind of go through this hypothetically, is $400 annually for an average pest control sale and $500 for a commercial sale. Now, once that you get the hang of figuring that out, you'll be able to determine whether or not your sales acquisition costs are being impacted because your marketing's no good, because your leads are no good, because you're not getting enough leads, or if we don't know what we're doing with those leads, we're not selling them, we're not following up, we're not getting back fast enough. And both of those sides of that equation, as a pest control owner, are things you need to be working on all of the time. But until you figure out what it really looks like, you can't work on it. You're just guessing. And then for the goals, this is something for you. I just dropped this in there. And you can make this up, but these numbers should be realistic to what you really want to attain this next year in relationship to what you know you already have. So in this case, what I've said is let's just say we want to double our leads for recurring and we want to double our leads for commercial. Now, we're not going to work today on necessarily what do I need to do that. That's more of a marketing webinar, more of an advertising webinar. But let's just say that's what we want to do. And we know what we want to do that. But in addition to that, we want to get close, excuse me, closer or as close as we can to 50% conversion rate. And why? Because you can look at the difference in the numbers. If I double the leads, so if I am increasing the number of leads and I am increasing my conversion rate, look at what it does to my revenue. So my sales revenue does not just double from 12,000 to 24, it over triples from 12,000 to 40,000 because I'm working on two things at the same time. And that is increasing leads and lead flow, but increasing my ability to sell and convert those. And you can look and see they're the same thing for commercial. So when we work together on a plan, this is where everything starts. And it starts by one in that top box being realistic in finding out what do we really have? What do we have, for sure? And error on the side of conservative, because if you're trying to get what you hope for, you're not going to get there. Then on the second line, the same thing. Being realistic, looking at our market, looking at our own ability to handle the market, how and what should our goals be for next year? These are two things I cannot put in play for you. You have to do this. And as I said, I'd be happy to send you a workbook that you can sit down with a pencil in your leisure and just get started here, regardless of the size of your company, and saying, this is where we sit today as we cruise through the fourth quarter of 23, which should be a great time for you to go figure all this out anyway. And then say, what do we want to do going forward? What is our goals? What is our aspirations? Now, I'll give you a small warning, and this is just something to tuck away. You better know what you are doing with regard to your retention of your existing customers. Okay, because if we want to grow by 20%, but we're losing 10%, we really need to grow by 30. So think about that in your planning, that you can't just throw a number down on top of what you have if you aren't even able to keep what you have going in from year one to year two. And it's why we try so desperately to always concentrate on recurring revenue, because one shot is just that. It's gone, and next year we have to start all over again. So the more recurring, the better. Now, what I want to do next is talk a little bit, and I'm going to go briefly through some of this stuff. And I hope that I'm opening up some communication with all of you. So you can feel free at any time to email me back and forth. We can even do a podcast episode together for fun so other pest control owners can hear. But all the buyer's journey is this: awareness, I see a spider; consideration, I probably should call a pest control company; decision, I really like Acme Pest Control, I'm going to go ahead and give them a call. That's all it is. And understand that when you talk to people, if they're only in the awareness stage, you may need to take a few minutes to talk with them and bring them along to making the decision that we need to get you on the calendar, we need to get an inspector out there, or we need to get a technician there to get you treated right away. So those are the three steps. And what you think about, a term that I want you to remember is pain point. there is generally a pain point that starts everything, a trigger. And it's usually they saw a bug, they saw a termite tube, they saw a cockroach scurry about the kitchen when they turned the lights on, they see an ant trail running along outside. Those are pain points that are almost always going to they are going to equal somebody deciding they need to make a phone call. And this, again, this is just that buyer's journey looking at it in terms of steps. And from a sales perspective, being aware and being thoughtful about where people are in that journey when you're talking to them. And then I want to talk for a moment here about consumers. This is also an issue when you're selling that you need to have clear in your brain. Everybody's not the same. There are really 10 different types of buying consumers, and they're really broken down into two groups of five. And half of that group is looking for you, half of that group is looking for anybody. They're just in the marketplace. And what we want to make sure is that we are able to lead them to us by understanding where they fall. And you may even see that a couple of these are not even who we want to do business with. And certainly if you're tailoring your business to any one of these customers that you don't want to be doing business with, just don't do it, because there's plenty of others. But if we take a look at the buyers that are looking for you, and you take a look at that pie, it really is, and it fluctuates a little bit from market to market, but it's almost half and half. Almost half are looking for you, half are looking for anybody. And you can look at it that way. What I'd like to do is, if you see about that piece down there on the bottom, I want you to keep this in your brain as well, because this is why your marketing is so important. Even people that are looking for you, about 25% of the time, can be influenced to call somebody else if there's a good message they're seeing, a good ad, some good reviews. They stumble upon a good post in social media. So you can still lose customers to others that are doing a good or better marketing job than you are. So keep that in mind. But the five buyers that are looking for you, and think about this when you're talking to people, they're a former customer, somebody you've dealt with in the past. They're advertising influence. So they saw one of your ads, they saw something that you have on social media, and they're responding to it. They're coming to you to get acquainted and see if you're a good pest control company to do business with. They're a repeat customer. Maybe they did do that one shot. Maybe they did do that mosquito treatment last year and they're coming back. And there's an old saying that used to call it passerbys. That was a little more in the brick and mortar business. I know many of us still have brick and mortar, but it also means like they saw your truck, they saw your building when they went by. Maybe they saw you having lunch at a sandwich shop with your uniform on, but they're familiar. They saw that name somewhere in their mind, and they're coming to look for you. They're solicited. Maybe you do door hangers. Maybe you have door knockers. Maybe you hand out trifolds to businesses in your local route when you're out and about during the day, but they're solicited. So those five are one group, and those are a group of customers that are looking specifically for you. So they're former customers, advertising influence, repeat customers, passerbys, and solicited. Okay, and don't always, again, don't always just believe that everybody that's looking for you or heard about you is going to come and do business. They need to be sufficiently handled, followed up with, and thrilled to the point that they want to do business with you. Now, next, we have the other half of the pie, or 50% or so. And those are the people that are looking for anyone. Now, what we're talking about is the people you are actually doing most of your marketing effort, most of your advertising expense. Most of it's done for this group of people that are in the marketplace. They don't have a pest control company. They're not entirely sure who they should choose. So they're looking around, they're browsing on the internet, they're reading social media posts, they're looking at reviews, all of those various things that a consumer might do to go find a pest control company to do business with. So let's talk about these a little bit more deeply, because these I want you to really have in your head fixed when you're talking to somebody to determine who they are. So they're dissatisfied. One of the most desirable consumers, if not the most desirable, is somebody that's dissatisfied. So the only thing they know is who they're not going to call. Everybody else is on the opportunity list. And it could be anything. It could be, they screwed up the billing. It could be the tech didn't show up on time. They forgot to send the message. Whatever it is, they have fired their old pest control company and they're looking for someone new. Infrequent. So infrequent might be that person that does things on a one-shot basis. Or maybe they had pest control and they canceled it and they've not been in the market for a while. Now they're looking to hire somebody new and start up again. There's competitive. The competitive might be the worst. And you all know this person. They don't necessarily even care who they're calling, what the service is, what the value proposition is. They just want to know if they can get it the cheapest on the list. I would surmise and I would suggest to you that you do not endorse the competitive shopper. You do not drive down the prices of pest control service in your own marketplace. These people are probably never going to be satisfied anyway. You know who they are. And I would say, for the most part, unless you build a business around being the cheapest in town, then you just almost dismiss these people and let them go call Fast Eddie's Pest Control and go pay $25, and they're going to get what they paid for. They'll be back eventually as a dissatisfied customer. And then you have the emergencies. Now, the emergencies are a good source of new revenue. They have an urgent problem. Maybe it's the lady of the house saw a mouse run across the kitchen and she wants it gone now. Maybe they're going to have a party and they've got mosquitoes in the backyard and they want somebody out there to get them handled. These are great opportunities for you to be prepared for. And then newcomers are just that. They're brand new in the market. First time homeowners, maybe they've moved from another city for another area. These are the newcomers that are coming into your market that are great opportunities for you to be Johnny on the spot to sell them pest control in your market and be there for them, hopefully for years to come, because we're going to provide such a great opportunity, or excuse me, a great service to them for pest control. So those are the other five: the dissatisfied, the infrequent, the competitive, the emergency, and the newcomer. Again, things for you to keep in your mind as we're moving forward through this. And then I want to show you this success pyramid. Now, this is something that, let me just look at something I want to look at, because I can actually pop these up here. Okay, so good. It looks like everybody's in here. I do want to tell you, if you have a question, if you drop it in that chat, I can pop it up here and we can answer it so everybody can see it as well. Because I see now that more of you have now all showed up and we're all over the map. Some are on Facebook, most are on Facebook, a couple on YouTube. But if you look at a success pyramid, once again, this is all about knowing your business. And you took all of your customers and you had them in folders, and we created 3 piles. And one pile was for our recurring customers that we know we can count on as an annual subscriber. The other is a group of customers that we count on that are not necessarily recurring general pest control, but they're add-on annual services. So maybe things like a winter rodent service, a summer mosquito service, stinging bee and wasp type services, but they're annual that you can resell and we can continue to market to them year in and year out. That's level 2. And then the top, which is the small, what we want to be the smallest block, is our one shots. And our one shots, yes, we will do. Yes, we don't want to turn away business, But what we want to use our one shot pot for is to continually be trying to convince them you need to hire us to be doing, whatever we do, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, biannual treatments. But you need us to be there to be doing these treatments for you all of the time. And so that is what we refer to as our pest control pyramid. All of this up to this point, all I'm doing is trying to get your mind wrapped around being organized and strategic in how you want to grow individual accounts to your business in 2024. And I would suggest, again, I think you can probably see it's pretty obvious. We want to start with recurring customers. So, general pest control recurring customers that we sign up, that we put on a route, that we go out there and see several times, again, however often you do it, and that we can count on them for 3 to 5 to 10 years moving forward. And that foundation just keeps getting bigger and stronger for our business. We and I advocate here what is referred to as the organized sales plan. And the organized sales plan has been around forever. And guys dress it up and call it different things. I've been dealing with it since 1980. So I bet I've been dealing with it probably more than everybody else. All it is, is steps that you use in your brain to follow to make sure you lead to an obvious conclusion, which in our case is to sign them up for recurring pest control. That's what we want to do. There's nothing devious about it. We're not used car sales guys. We're not trying to trick anybody. We're not trying to use, a whole bunch of psycho babble. All we're really trying to do is have a genuine conversation with someone in which we show concern and empathy for their situation, and we provide them a solution to what they have already told us is a pre-existing problem. And those 5 steps are, as you can see there, the approach and preparation, the fact finding and needs assessment, the presentation, recommendation, and close. All that sounds real fancy, sounds scary. It's not. It's a matter of having it understood in your mind and walking through the steps in this order. And we'll work today predominantly on the first two, which is approach and preparation and fact finding. Because if you do those two things on every call you make, every phone call you take, every email you follow up on, you will find that the presentation, recommendation, and close are easy. Now, listen, if you're one of these who think that you get a lead on a text message, an email, or even on local services ads messages, and you can just send them the prices and say, oh, thank you for calling. Here's what we charge for initial. Here's what we charge for our ongoing. Here's what we charge for a one shot. God bless you. Have a good day. And you're going to get many of those people to respond back to you and purchase pest control. You can't get enough leads to make it valuable enough to make that a return for your investment. That's going straight from the lead to the close. There's no approach, there's no fact finding, there's no nothing. So these steps will help you sell more, will help you do everything you're doing better and more efficiently, and they will improve your ROI if you do them, if you practice, if you go through the grind. So let's review what this looks like on kind of a horizontal plane. I hope you can see that. That's a little bit dark. But in the approach and the preparation stage, let me just tell you what that means, really. And once again, you'd be surprised. And that is everybody in your business, you, your techs, the people answering your phones, everybody associated with your business, do they know everything you sell? Do they have it on a cheat sheet so they can see everything you sell? How much it costs? What can I bundle? What can I discount? Do I have materials that I can follow up with on a text message or an email? Am I thoroughly prepared for anything that comes my way? And I will tell you, just chatting with you the here today. For most of you, the answer is no, you don't. You really don't. And I would challenge you to go sit down and I'll use a short story here. Excuse me again. So, in a past life, I was also a high school football coach, which I loved. I loved it. If you could make money coaching high school football, that's where I'd be. But anyway, the hardest thing to do every year at the end of the season, which is where we're at, was to sit down, self evaluate what did we do good, what did we do poor, and what do we need to do better to prepare. And then have everything prepared. So that practice schedule, the all the practices, the outlines. So what I'm suggesting to you here, before you do anything with sales, because you can't really do it effectively until you know everything you're selling, who you're selling it to, and then you have backup materials to help you and those that work for you to be able to promote those sales ongoing to all of the people we come in contact with. Because in the end, in the long run, in 5 years from now, your sales funnels and the one you use for the leads you did not sell, so just people in the community that you happen to now have their name, their email, and their mobile phone number for, that list will become bigger and more profitable to you than your actual list of customers and even most of your leads that you're paying for. It's that valuable to you if you handle it that way and think about it that way. Now, fact finding. So, step one, challenge today. Don't even worry about any of this until you sit down with a pencil and a piece of paper and you really thoroughly think through, what do we want to sell? Do we want to sell monthly, bi monthly, quarterly, biannually? Why? To who? What is the selling point? Again, I go through this with many of my clients where they're selling bi-monthly and quarterly, and I'll ask them, why are you selling both? And they don't know why. They just are, because that seems to be what people want. So we need to figure out what we're selling. Are we going to do rodent exclusion work? And if we're not, are we going to recommend somebody to help us with it? Or are we just going to use copper and steel wool to plug small holes? Are we going to provide and promote mosquito care treatment throughout the year? And how are we going to get those people to realize it's important to start in March when they aren't even thinking about mosquitoes yet? All of these things you need to challenge yourself and sit down. And I'll tell you a funny story. So, a commercial that comes to my mind. Have you seen this commercial with Andy Reid and it's State Farm, and State Farm's doing their bundle options? And he's sitting there with Patrick Mahomes and a State Farm guy, and they're trying to teach him the concept of bundling. And they hand him the French fries, and he says, "Oh, okay." Then they hand him the hamburger, and then he says, "Oh, now tell me more about that bundling option, but this time include the McNuggets." Anyway, my point in that, bundle your products, create easy reasons to sell more to each person you talk to. Why do you think McDonald's started it? You go and you get a little package and you get a toy and you get French fries and you get a hamburger and you get a milkshake instead of going and just buying a hamburger. So think these things through, write them down, try them out on people, and then test them and practice them with your team. Now, fact finding. What is fact finding? What does that really mean? Here's what it means in pest control. You know why they called. It still is necessary for you to ask them, to be quiet, and to listen to their explanation, even though you know the answer and you want to interrupt them and tell them what they're dealing with. You need to allow them to say it. So when you look at it, I'm going to read this because I know you can't see it. Knowing what the caller or prospect's pain points are, having a plan of what you need to know, And then the main skill here is to listen. So, in other words, oh, good morning, Will. Thank you so much for calling Acme Pest Control. Can I ask, what are you calling about today? Be quiet. Well, we've got some cockroaches, and my wife saw them, and she's panicking. And I really, we got to get rid of them. We got to get rid of them fast. Great. What more can you tell me? And we'll get a little bit more detail into this in a minute. But the point in fact finding, and where I would challenge you when you're talking to a new prospect, is who's doing the talking in the beginning of the conversation. If it's you, you've completely fouled up your organized sales plan. You've got to go back to fact finding and ask them what it is the reason they're calling and what the problem they're having is, and don't go into sales technician mode. Be quiet and listen. Empathize. Let them say it. Bite your tongue. Allow the conversation to go. Why? I'll tell you why in just a minute. It's so very, very important. So that's approach and fact finding where we want to focus today. We know what we're selling. We know how much it costs. We know the options that we're going to have prepared. We know if we're going to have any discounts or promotions available to help us close the deal. We know all that. All that's done. We've trained it. We've practiced it. It's consistent with what's on our website, what's in our email messages, what's on our social media. That's done. Now we're going to get into a conversation with somebody where we're going to try to find out what the problem is. And the first thing we're going to do is practice and script our introduction, which should always start brief, polite, and happy. Good morning. This is Casey. I'm with Acme Pest Control. And how can I help you this morning? That's it. Then we're going to find out the basics. Again, before you do anything, you've called the right place. I'm so happy you called. Before we get started, let me just ask a couple of questions of you so I can help you. What's your email? What's your first and your last name? And what's your phone number? And very few will balk at that. And then reconfirm what they told you. So just to make sure I understand, the issue you're having is this. Okay? We'll talk in a moment a little bit more detail on that. Like I said, this is not going to be an all-day seminar, even though it could be. The presentation, recommendation, and close, which we'll deal with in another webinar in more detail, are nothing more than your elevator pitch. I'm so glad you called Acme Pest Control. We are a local company here. We're family owned. We've been here for 40 years, and you can be sure that we want to be your pest control company for years to come. Presentation, recommendation, important. Why did I listen to them? Because in my recommendation, which I'm going to recommend, I'm a pest control professional. I'm not going to ask them what they want. I don't care what they want. I'm going to tell them how to solve the problem they presented to me, which is why in fact finding we need them to tell us what that problem is, so I can say just simply this. Well, Will, based on what you told me and with the issue you're having with those XYZ insects, here's what we need to do. Recommendation. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. And there's no options. There's no asking. And then we go into close. And our close is very simple once we know those things. Now, based on that, I can have my technician out there. It looks like Monday around 10 a.m., somewhere between 10 and 12. Will that work for you? And that is referred to in the business as a trial close. And what I mean by that is we're not allowing them to start whimpering and whining about, oh, well, gee, I don't know. I need to go ask my wife. I need to do this. I need to do that. Those are called objections. And if you allowed them in fact finding to tell you why they called and what the problem is, and our recommendation is really honestly to solve that problem, you can be very aggressive in your close by simply saying, well, you told me you're having this problem. I told you what we need to do to get it solved. What's the problem? And there really shouldn't be anything left unless maybe he's a cost shopper. And like I said, those cost shoppers you can never satisfy. But what we want to do is close them up right then and there. We want to close them every other call. That's our 50%. So let's walk through this a little bit more in detail. We've been on 50 minutes. I'm going to try to get done in 10 minutes because I do not like to keep you for more than an hour. But again, our approach and our preparation, I think I went through that pretty much in detail. And that is to know what you're selling inside and out and to have a very positive and very happy introduction. And why do I say that? Just remember this: you can see a smile through the phone as much as you can feel a frown. What did I do? Did I do that right? Yeah. Oops. No, I didn't. So again, what shall we do? Script your introduction, understand it, gather the information you need, and that is the first name, the email, the phone number, and the pest problem. You've got to know that on all of these. We want to let them explain why they called, listen, hear it out, and play it back later in the recommendation. Our presentation is nothing more than an elevator pitch. And an elevator pitch is to assure them you called the right place. We are Acme Pest Control. We're local. We're this, we're that. We're not one of the national brands unless you are. And here's why it's so important to us that you called us. That's all it is. Practice it. Say it to yourself. Say it in the mirror. It needs to be genuine and it needs to resonate positively and make people feel like, gosh, I called the right place. Why? Because so many other places don't do these things. Go call some of your competitors and just see what a miserable experience it is to try to explain to them that you've got a cockroach problem and you're looking to get some help. Recommendation is nothing more than you told me when I asked you what your problem was, that this is what the problem was and this is how you solve it. Now, other people may try to tell you other things. You may try to find it cheaper, but the fact of the matter is, if you really want the problem gone once and for all, and you want to guarantee that if you have a problem with it again, that we'll be back, this is what you need to do. And then closing. Closing is nothing more than assuming you did all these previous 4 steps correctly. And let me tell you, when someone tries to take you right to the close when you're first talking with them, so how much does it cost and what should we do? I get that in my business. Pest control owners will call me, and I know that they're paranoid. They know we're a marketing company, they know we charge money, so they're a little nervous. And they'll come, how much is it? How much does this cost? I can't answer that because I don't even know what they want. We offer a lot of things, just like you do. So my answer will very simply be to them, well, well, before we get started here, I really need to ask you a few questions. Do you got a minute? Is it okay? And you got to take them back to fact finding. So, what is your problem? What is your pain point? Explain it to me. Let me listen. Let me evaluate it. I know because I'm already done all my approach and preparation stage that I'm ready to make a recommendation. Now, let me ask you guys some questions here. So I have a workbook and I would love to give it to you, but it's completely worthless to you if what I've just presented to you doesn't interest you and you don't want to use this for as a skill for yourself or your team. to go improve your sales results. And I do understand that if you don't know your sales results right now, if you're not pretty clear on how many leads I get and how much I pay for those leads, and then how many sales I make from those leads and what that comparative number is, we need to start there. And what I'm trying to do is be able to put a series of these together that goes through each of all of the information I just provided to you in much more detail. And as you can see, if we were doing a real sales training class, this is an all day class. So I'm going to throw this out there and open this just for a second for those of you that I have here with me. And yeah, Denny, absolutely, I'll send it. Um, Let me ask each of you, ask a question that you may have, and let me know if you feel this is any worth or value to you as a pest control owner or manager at all. If it would be valuable to have a series of shorter, more concise, step by step, sort of classroom style trainings so that we can take your sales conversion rates to the next level, your sales revenues to the next level. And I'll tell you why. I hate to waste my time. And I don't want to just put this out there as content that looks good. And I'm another one of these pest control gurus that's professing we know everything, we're the best at everything, and here's all the secret sauce. None of that works. Again, my background is to work hand in hand with salespeople to show them how to do these things, to show them how to very simply get to a point where they could have a conversation with somebody, find out what they wanted, know how to apply what they had as a solution to that, and then ask for the business. It's that simple. And that's a skill that takes some practice and time to get good at. And when you get good at it, you will find yourself converting 40 to 50 to 60% of the people you're talking to. So, any questions as I kind of bring this to a close here and as we get finalized? You all have my email. If you want the workbook, I will happily send it to you. You can look at it. I will also be very happy to work with any of you um, after the fact to talk about issues, any little things you want to, to refine. But now I'm not seeing anything in here. So if any of you are, I think there's several of you that are still here. If any of you have a question, anything you want to say. So, Tim, I agree with you. All education is valuable, but its value is also directly related to what the person who has that education does with it. And that's kind of where I'm trying to get with this. I can put a bunch of these together, which is maybe what I'll do, and just tell people they're here. Or we can do more of this. I wanted to try this StreamYard thing. It's a little bit more, we're live, you're there, I'm here. I know looks like there's only about 12 here. That's still not bad. I wanted to get about 20. But if there's anything else I can provide that will make you want to do this better, then let me know. So Mary says, I think there are parts of this. I think I can actually show this. Yeah, this is pretty cool. For a company, I do the sales and marketing as well as the customer service calls. I've been doing quite a bit of this, but I do want to know more about lead generation and techniques. And so, what, let me tell you, Mary, I'll answer that to you this way. So, we're a marketing company, and almost everything we do initially when we work with an organization revolves around growing their lead flow through marketing and advertising. And that's online. We can do inbound, outbound. We do email, we do Google Ads, a whole host of things. Inevitably, what happens is when you're successful with marketing and advertising and the lead flow goes up, the natural reality of that is the sales conversions go down. And I think my personal opinion, again, having managed thousands of salespeople, is that the reason for that is to a certain extent a lot of times the it's easier once you have more leads, just take the cream off the top. And those that require a little work and effort, I don't need it because I'm getting just as much sales now as I was before. But what you've done is you've actually cost the company money because they're spending more dollars and valuable time and energy to get more leads, but you're just converting the same number because you're just taking the easy ones. I hope that makes sense. And we work a lot with companies once they become aware of that reality, that just because you're getting more leads doesn't mean you're going to make more money. Oftentimes, it means those leads might cost you more because you're converting a fewer number of the total leads because people aren't taking the same effort because now we have some good, more, and better leads coming in. So that is part of what I'm doing here. And for us as a marketing company, it's a selfish endeavor as well. And it's why we're willing to devote so much time and energy to help. And that is because a marketing company does nothing but look better when the ROI is better because the sales conversions are better because we're converting more leads. So it all works hand in hand, Mary. And I hope that makes sense to you. Um, anyway, I'm going to just sit here for a second or two and see if anybody else has anything else they want to ask. If not, I've really done what I wanted here today, and that was to present to you very quickly a lot of information, but find out from you in the long run what we could provide for you in more detail and in more of a classroom environment for you and your team so you can take these things and put them into practice. Anybody, I'll give you another minute here. It's 1 o'clock. We've gone for just a straight 1 hour, which is about the extent of where you want to take these things. People start bailing anyway. So if there's anybody else, please let me know. If not, I say thank you. As always, this is to your success. God bless. And I will catch you on the next one. Denny, I'll definitely get you that. I'll just send the workbook to all of you since there was, I mean, again, there's only 12 or 13, so it'll be very easy. I'll send it out. Have a good day. Have a great holiday week. I'm going to go get my bird brine probably tomorrow. I hope your Thanksgiving goes great for all of you. Thank you.